Sentire Media.
Good morning, followers of the podcast. Thank you so much for download. This is take two, and it's not going any better than take one. All right, here we go again. Ready, go. Good morning, podcasters. Thank you so much for downloading the podcast from Italy. I'm Jason.
Ciao, I'm Ashley.
Together we own, operate, and are sitting in the Sala of Cacamone at La Tavola Marche, a little agriturismo in the foothills of the Apennine, in between two towns of Piobico and Sant'Angelo in Vado. Today is the 13th of July, 7:30 on the dot, on a beautiful Monday morning, full summer here in Italia.
It's been a bit of a heat wave, but we've got a nice little break in that heat yesterday and today, so it's very pleasant.
June has come with a good amount of heat.
You mean July?
Oh, sorry, thank you. July has come with a good amount of heat, like Italy should be in the summer. But we've gone from like just hot to hot, warm with really cool mornings. So it's been this big swing. It'll either be a low of 15, 16, 17 overnight and a high of 33, 34 during the day, which nobody likes. The plants don't like it. The animals don't like it. The people don't like it. To a high of, like, today's going to be 26, 27, which is a perfect beautiful summer day, but when you wake up in the morning, it's a little chilly. Since we have a little bit of altitude where we are. We're at about 375, 400 meters. We'll wake up and it'll be like 7, 8 degrees with dew on the grass, and that's something that the plants don't like either. So I never am happy with the weather.
I always find something to complain about.
I always find something to complain about, but it is full summer. The sunflowers are blooming all over our area. The garden is producing. We are picking things almost every day. The tomatoes have started. I'm sick of zucchini.
Mm-hmm. We are pickling like crazy.
We're pickling like loons.
Yes. Jason planted a ton of zucchini, cucumbers, and specifically like the little Kirby ones, right?
Yeah.
And for the first time ever, since we don't have guests this time of year, we've had the time to jar and pickle things that we wouldn't normally be able to. And
beets, pickles.
Oh my God, let me tell you.
Cucumbers.
The pickles, our Dutch neighbor came over and I was like, "Can I offer you a pickle?" So random, and he goes, "Are you pregnant?" I said, "No, they're just so good." He found a great recipe for a kosher dill pickle, which just as soon as we crunched into him, brought us right back to New York, and big sandwiches, and God, I'm loving the pickles.
So we got a lot to talk about in this podcast. We'll keep on going with the garden, how my surgery on my torn rotator cuff went, listener questions and answers and all that stuff. So let's get into it.
Very good.
Garden talk. I mentioned that we have the cool mornings, which puts dew on the plants, which creates the malatia or the blight of the tomatoes, which don't really like it.
They got the fever.
With some of them got the fever. We go through every morning and try to pick off all the crispy, crunchy leaves towards the bottom, but it's gotten to the point where there's not a lot of leaves left to keep on picking.
Instead of kind of picking the leaves to, if you will, the ankles, you're getting up to about the knees.
Yeah, more towards the thigh.
Oh.
We spray with what's called Potilia bordelaise, which is a natural remedy to this. It's two elements, sulfur and copper, and those two things kill the fungus or the mold or whatever it is that are making my tomatoes not so happy. It's not working.
If you've seen the pictures I just posted, you might notice some of the tomatoes look like they have kind of some blue spots, like dried water that was blue.
Yeah,
and
they tint it blue. It's totally organic and natural. It's what they use in the wine industry as well. And a fun fact, you ready for fun fact?
Fun fact.
So this was found by, in the UK, I believe, many, many moons ago, that the potato plants that were downwind from copper smelting plants didn't have this problem because it happens on the tomatoes as well, and they didn't know why the tomato plants upwind did have the problem. They found that there's particles of copper in the air from the factories that produced whatever they were doing with copper. And there you go. Now it's used all over the world, I guess.
Thanks for that fun fact, Jay.
Fun fact. Fun fact.
Another fun fact, going to our neighbor's house, our lovely Dutch neighbors who we talk about often, Carrie Lynn and Luke, we went to dinner at their place the other night, and Jason noticed a dolly rigged up with a backpack sprayer.
So since I'm a one-armed man in a garden which requires two arms, his idea, I guess it's not an invention. He said it was an old man trick.
Yeah.
Is great. We rigged up the backpack sprayer to a little like box dolly, what you see like the delivery guy using to carry the boxes into the shops, and it works great.
Yes, I'm able to push and pump, and he's able to spray and still feel like he's doing work in the garden.
Because when you put 20 liters of water on your back, it's just heavy and no good, and you get all that stuff all over you, which it's not bad. It's a natural element, but still. But it's still a two-man job.
No, but you were glad to be doing the work.
Yeah, I was glad to be part of it. I'm very jealous these days. Since I can't do any of I'm getting better, but can't do really any of the physical work that needs to be done this time of year. I look longingly as Ashley ties tomatoes and
I came up from the garden the other day. I said, "Are you jealous? Like, what is going on?"
It's a little pissy.
I know, he was real pissy, and he goes, "Kinda." The garden's my thing. And I was like, you're just watching me tie tomatoes, and I didn't realize it would be such a blow. But
yeah, so I can't really do a whole lot. We'll get into that a bit. And I can't really get sweaty because I got this like hardcore, what would you call this thing?
Sling
brace thing on, and when
straps across, two big straps across your chest and stomach, and
yeah. So when you get sweaty, it gets uncomfortable. So it's not good.
Well, you're not supposed to be doing work to get sweaty either at this point.
Not really. Other things, potatoes. The potatoes are coming up. This is our most prolific potatoes harvest ever, and I think it's because I actually read a book instead of taking the advice of a 73-year-old doctor who really doesn't know what he's doing in the garden, but likes to play
farmer.
He would always have us bury the shit out of the tomatoes, really
potatoes.
Potatoes, really, really deep. Down in the ground. And since we had more time this year to actually like study up a book and figure out and plan the garden out a little better and really take our time step by step in the process instead of just kind of getting it done with the time we have in between guests and that kind of thing. We planted our potatoes much more superficially this year, almost barely covering the potato when you put it in. And it's made a world of difference. Not
only do the plants just look so happy, thriving, bushy, big, tall, to unearth the potatoes is a pleasure compared to years past where it's like, deeper, they're down there somewhere. And this time it's like you put in the shovel, you barely pop it out and pull the plant out, and you're like, ta-da, potatoes.
So we will have hundreds. I'm not using hyperbole. We will have hundreds of kilos of tomatoes as well, but potatoes. And I thought I planted two varieties. I thought I planted what's called pasta gialla, yellow potato, and pasta bianca, white potato. And it turns out that I have red potatoes.
We don't know how this happened.
White potatoes and yellow potatoes, which is not a big deal, but red potatoes normally, and they're not waxy red like the small ones that you're probably familiar with. These are big red potatoes from a place called Borgo Pace, which is right around here. And they're famous for their red potatoes because red potatoes are good for really two things. Frying, because they have a much lower water content in them. So they're great for frying, making chips or French fries, and they're great for making gnocchi. Which is a problem because it's the two of us, and the last thing I need to do is get a fry daddy and start frying potatoes.
He keeps talking about it. He's like, I think we need a fry daddy. It's like, I do not.
And my gnocchi game is very poor. I've made gnocchi a few times, and with mixed results. Either they come out hard, or I cut back the flour so much that they kind of fall apart. So my goal, once I get a hand back, is to figure out how to make gnocchi consistently. And I want them to be light like pillows. They should be, when you put them in your mouth and put your tongue to the roof of your mouth, they should just kind of disintegrate in your mouth. Now that there's just like something like the passatelli, the kind of the pasta made with the breadcrumbs. There's two different versions you can make it. Some people prefer a harder gnocchi, and some people prefer. It depends on where in Italy you're making them. Some of them are hard, like a little firmer in the mouth, and some of them are much lighter and more delicate. Of course, being the contrarian, our adopted Papa Gaggi says, "I like the hard ones." It's like, oh, of course you do.
You like green tomatoes too.
Yeah, but I don't. I prefer the much lighter, more delicate ones, and that's my goal once I get a hand back, because I can practice quite a bit.
Well, speaking of potatoes, and you were talking about the starch content and what they're good for.
Water content.
Water content. Why don't you explain the difference between the yellow and the white as well?
So yellow potatoes are good for boiling. They make great boiled potatoes. They don't do so well for roasting. I mean, you can roast them.
Wait, when you say boiled, does that also mean mashed?
Yeah, boiled, mashed. They have more water. They have more of a creamy texture to them when you eat them. I find when you roast them, they're nice in the mouth because when you eat them, they're creamy in your mouth, but they don't get a crunch on them because they've got a little bit more water in them. The white potatoes are great for roasting because they're lower in water content. But I find when you boil the white potatoes, they just kind of like explode, mm-hmm. right? They just kind of start disintegrating from the outside, and then you don't really pull up a whole boiled potato. Mm-hmm. Again, you can all of these, they're potatoes, so you can do everything with all of them. It's just, I don't know. This is my profession, so you use the right ingredient for the right job. So I wouldn't go and buy yellow potatoes if I knew I was going to roast them. I would buy white potatoes or red potatoes. I wouldn't, and I don't boil the white ones because I know that when I boil them, like say I want to make a potato and green bean salad. That's common that I make in the summer. I really don't want to use the white potatoes because they're going to come out. They're going to start falling apart on the outside, mm-hmm. and then they're going to look yucky. They're just not going to have a nice look when you toss them with the green beans and the olive oil and the vinegar and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. It can be used. They all can be used either way, but. Red potato, we got red potatoes, which was not...
Well, and it's hit or miss. Like, we went and dug some up, and it was red potato, white potato. So it's like, wait, what? And we weren't quite sure. We have planted quite a few, like Jason said, and we're not quite sure, does that mean there was a few red potatoes in the mix? At first he was like, do you think the red potatoes turned white? And it was like, no, I definitely don't think that was the case. But I guess it's going to be a bit of an adventure surprise as we unearth these to see what's under each hole.
I think the simplest answer is the correct answer. I think that they had, 20 red potatoes left in a sack, and they threw them into an open sack of white potatoes because potatoes come in 50 seed potatoes here come in 50 kilo sacks. So 50 kilos is that's hundreds and hundreds of potatoes. So I bought half a sack, 25 kilos of what I thought were yellow and 25 kilos of what I thought were white. So what I think happened is they had, 20, a little bit at the bottom of a sack of red and threw them into an open sack of white and sold that to me. Not the end of the world, but...
No, but it was a kind of a funny, wait, what? First we were surprised they were red, and then we're getting used to the idea of having red potatoes, and now yesterday we went to dig up a one plant to have some potatoes, and they were all white. It's like, what is going on here? We're also seeing a cross-pollination of tomatoes and peppers this year. So we have these tomatoes called indigo, and they're black. They're really strikingly cool looking. And they're think of them as kind of a little bit bigger, about the size of a cherry tomato.
A big cherry tomato. Uh-huh. Smooth skins, totally round, no striation, like a smooth tomato. Now, the indigo next to one of the Costolutos or one of the Belmonte, I don't know, one of the other tomatoes, they're coming out kind of flat, twice the size with the same coloring, but a totally different shape and look
It's
than
crazy.
all the other indigos.
I got to take a picture of that one.
Also on our peppers, we're supposed to have you ever seen the small we call them pimentos, the small peppers that they stuff. They're small red, and they'll stuff them with like a piece of cheese and a
Anchovy,
and they'll put them under oil, and you'll see jars of them all over Italy. Well, those are starting. I planted them next to the next to the ancho peppers, and they're not coming out small and round. They're coming out kind of bigger and longer like an ancho. So doing a little research, I found that when you plant these things together, when they get pollinated by the bees carry the pollen from plant to plant, and you can have cross-pollination of these plants. So I'm worried that, and the jalapenos and the pepperoncinos aren't really that hot yet. Now, it's early in the season for the peppers turning hot, but my worry is that the sweet peppers have pollinated the hot peppers, and the anchos have pollinated the little red ones, and we'll see what happens. Interesting. Nature's crazy to me. I really find it super interesting. But what's the situation? What is the
final outcome going to be?
Well, and then what's the fix? What's the remedy?
Well, you don't fix it.
You have to separate all your pepper plants by how far. I've read 25 meters, so it's like I'm going to have. So then I have to now
different pepper zones.
Different pepper zones. I don't think I'm ever going to do that.
I don't either. Well, I think we just let nature take its course.
Let nature do its thing. What is the year of? Normally we have a year of a certain bug. This year, it's kind of funny since we found that we had no fruit on the trees due to a frost in March. Mm-hmm. So we literally have no fruit. We didn't get a single cherry. We're not going to get a single plum.
No.
Nothing.
I doubt we're going to get any apples.
Yeah, maybe no apples. So the calabrone, or the big European hornets, have not really come around like we've had in years past.
Because normally they love eating the cherries and all the sweets and stuff on the trees, and it's been a lot. You don't hear the buzz. No,
you don't hear the buzz of them. No flies this year. It's kind of funny. Normally we have to combat the flies, but it's been really, really dry, so no flies. It's just funny that no guests this year, no real bug problems this year.
Normally there's a morning we wake up and the locusts have shed their skin, if you will, and you'll come across the plum tree or somewhere near the pool, the shower near the pool, and the whole southern or western side, one side will be just covered in the locust shells, which is really kind of cool.
Yeah,
I mean, it sounds gross, but it's whoa, what happened? There was some party here last night where everyone took off their skin, and I've seen one or two here and there, but nothing. It is ironic that the year that we could probably battle some sort of bug or creature. We don't need to. And it's just classic that no guests, no bugs.
No guests, no bugs. Oh, I know. Maybe it's the year of the horse. We call them horse flies, but there are these black-winged flat flies that come out in the garden around 5 o'clock, and I'll be down there and watering because I can water. I can hold a hose in my hand. And Ashley took a bite on her thigh the other day. Her thigh was swollen incredibly.
It was literally, I think, 2 bites on my thigh, and we went out the next day. I was like, oh my God, it was so hot and huge. I was wearing jeans the following day, and when I took my pants off, I had the lines of the stitching of the jeans stuck on my left leg. The right leg was fine, but I was like, oh my God, it looks like I've eaten my way out of these pants, but it's just the bug bite. And those last for 3 or 4 days. It's a big swollen one, but
yeah, luckily they stick to the garden.
Yeah.
They're down in the garden, and they come out in the afternoon, and they're gone by the early evening. Mm-hmm. So that's really just about it. So if you let them, and they love to bomb my pool. It's a bug. It's a bug graveyard. It's insane. But other than that, no real bug. It's not. No one's claimed to be bug of the year this year.
No, not at all.
The tractors have finished going through and cutting the grain from all the fields around. We had the hum of diesel engines last week. They've cut all the grain. They've baled up all the paya. What's paya in English?
Hay.
Yeah, all the no hay is what they
Straw.
eat. Straw. There you go. They've balled up all the straw, and now the next thing the tractors will come through is turn the soil and plant the autumn crops. So
It was also funny because the other night I was doing an interview for some book about female entrepreneurs and sitting outside chatting with the author. And it was a Zoom with video and stuff. And I could hear some of the tractors coming by. And I said, "Oh, do you want me to stop for a second and let this tractor go by if it's going to be pretty loud?" And she was like, "No, it's fine. I can't really hear anything." And I had just been saying how she was asking what's some of the most fulfilling things about living out here or since we've started the business. And I was saying how for Jason, it's never about the accolades from reviews or from international press or top 10 cooking class lists. He could pretty much care less. It's when the oldies and the neighbors drive by and check out the garden, and which is very true. And at this same time as I'm kind of saying this, moments later, the tractor comes by, like I said, and sure enough, beep, beep, starts honking. And she was like, "Well, I heard that." I said, "Oh, he's honking at Jason. He's in the garden." And another tractor or two came by and did the same. And I just thought it was kind of perfect timing and reiterated my point of it's kind of nice to be out there in the garden and seeing the I don't know, whether it's the big guys on the big rigs kind of giving you credit.
That was Capelacci on the combine. I love seeing the combines go down our road because it's
massive.
It's massive. It's the biggest machines that kind of come around here.
Our road is pretty narrow at some points. Not like crazy narrow, like you'll see in some other parts of Italy.
You can pass two cars.
You can pass two cars, but there's parts where the clearance isn't very high with the overhang of the trees, and it's just like, it just looks massive out here. And I'm sure it's the mini size compared to like what they're taking around fields in Middle America.
Yeah.
For us, it's like, whoa, take a look at that.
That's a big machine.
We sound like there just is no entertainment either. That we're like, look at that tractor.
That's another thing. I've found that I do miss the guests. Every year at the end of the season, I'm like, get these people out of my house. I don't want to see anyone. But now it's, to be honest, quite honest, it's boring. Since I can't do all the jobs that I really like to do, there's not a lot to do. Studying my driving test, that sounds like fun.
I know.
Study Italian? Why would I want to better my language skills? Why would I want to do that?
And Gaji's only here kind of in the mornings to bust chops and break balls. And so, yeah, it's kind of quiet.
It is kind of quiet. And there's nothing going on. They've started to pick up a little bit. Like there's Fano Jazz outside that was last week. But any of the manifestation. Oh man, if that's not the right word in English.
Just events.
Events have been all canceled. I thought, oh man, maybe we could go to an air show this year because there's tons of air shows all over Europe in the summer. Nope. Everything is canceled.
Or they'll say rescheduled for fall or something, but we'll see.
We'll see about that. So it's just kind of the dog days and not a lot really going on.
Speaking of dog days, let's talk about going up to Bologna and the surgery because thank God we live where we live. We might have it be 34 in the heat of the day, but we went up to Bologna for Jason's surgery.
Last day of June.
And the evening we arrived, it was 6 o'clock or so when we got there after terrible traffic, and it was 37 degrees at 6 o'clock
with no air. That's what we realized. We're really lucky. There's always a little breeze where we live.
The next day at 11 in the morning, it was 37 degrees. It was just like in the center of the city. You're like, oh my God, thank God we live where we live.
Yeah. Bologna is oppressive heat. And not only is it's not the temperature, it's the fact that it's a walled stone city. So you're like walking around in an oven, literally an oven. And this
is gross, but like you've got your mask on, or when you're walking around outside, you don't need to have it on. But when you go into a place, you always put your mask on. And I would find myself like almost using my mask, or not almost, but definitely like wiping the sweat off my chin or face. And then I was like, this is so gross because now I'm breathing through this thing and it's becoming like a sweat rag at the same time. It's
and no air moving. We're here even when you get down a little lower, we're a little higher up in the hills. But even when you go down a little lower in our area, there's always just air moving.
Yep,
and that makes a huge difference. The two things: there's a lot of green, so at night the heat the Earth lets the heat go and the air moving. And when you go to a place like Bologna, where it's in the plains, what was that?
Just the wind.
Oh.
Closing the door.
In the flatland, there's no air in that town, and the stone holds it, and it's 11 o'clock at night, and you're walking around, and you're just like, oh my God, somebody kill me. So
it didn't feel humid to me.
no, it wasn't humid. It was just hot.
Exactly.
Like a different heat hot. And in the morning, it had that warm, like that 8 o'clock. Excuse me, 8 o'clock in the morning. It's like, oh, it's gonna cook. Cook today. Not. I know all you people who come here and like, oh, we want to go to Florence in the middle of the summer. Great. Enjoy your sweaty walk around that city. I will not be going there. It is oppressive. Florence, anywhere in Umbria.
That just sits in a bowl.
It just sits in a bowl. That's Umbria. Literally means the shadow. It's in the
shadow of the Pyrenees.
In the Pyrenees, and there's no air there either. So while yes, Italy is beautiful in the summer, I think it's beautiful in the countryside. I think the cities are hot, oppressive, and just terrible.
It's true. People will every once in a while ask, not always, but we'll get a handful of summer questions about, do we have air conditioning? And one person said we wouldn't come if you don't, because we were somewhere last year in Italy and they didn't have air conditioning and we suffered terribly. And I tried to explain to them, I totally understand. However, none of the farmhouses in our area that are stone like ours have air conditioning. One, obviously, I didn't say the cost to this inquiry, but really it's because of our elevation and we get that nice breeze and because we have the green and it just cools off in the evening enough.
And also our house is made of stone, so it's a natural air conditioner. When you when the heat comes mid-morning towards noon, you close up all your windows, you close the shutters, and you keep that cooler air inside. And the stone is cool. The stone is cool. So
we've learned after all these years how to regulate the air the way the Italians say. So it is. It's like you shuffle between opening doors and closing doors and opening shutters and closing shutters. And
we'll tell our guests 100 times, close your windows, close your shutters in the middle of the day. And they don't listen. They feel like if they keep the window open, it'll get cooler. And it's like, no. You're just heating that room.
It's like leaving the oven door open.
Yes, absolutely. Close it during the middle of the day. Once 6:30 comes and the sun and the temperature starts to fall, open everything back up. Let that cool air come in, and you'll sleep like a baby. In fact, I can't sleep in a bed yet, but Ashley has been sleeping in the
ground floor apartment.
Ground floor apartment where you have to get under the covers. It is cold in that room.
It's so great. It's the coolest, darkest spot in the house, and it's the apartment on the ground floor, and we called
the north face.
And we called the cave. It was once the cantina of the house, so it makes sense. And where they would store the wine, cool, dark spot. And man, you can sleep like a baby, whether it's the middle of the day for a nap or middle of the night, and it is excellent. So it's been a bit of a pleasure. We're finding little perks of not having guests here to be able to use the house in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's tell them your story. We
All right.
went up to Bologna first for your COVID test.
Yep, first for the COVID test, which was interesting. It felt like they tickled my brain with the little Q-tip, and then we came back home for 2 days, and here in Italy, you can get the results in 24 hours. So they knew I was COVID-free. It's the way to be. And then I had my surgery on a Monday. On a Monday, I got there early in the morning. They did the echocardiogram to make sure my heart won't explode when they put me under, and blood tests to make sure my blood will clot and all that good stuff. And then I had my surgery sometime in the early afternoon. It was really uneventful, to be quite honest. It was interesting to see that how the hospital kind of functions. Oh, they also try to shake me down.
I was going to say, do you want to tell it? Let's tell them the inside story.
So they try to shake me down for more money.
So first I get a message from Jason going, oh my gosh, I got a complimentary upgrade, because they kept referring to the quote unquote accommodations part, the room, as like hotel comfort and whatnot.
Well, you can choose. If you wanted to just be in a room with 2 other patients, 3 patients to a room, it was free, like one price. If you wanted to be 2 to a room, it was another kind of, because I went private, it was another price. And then if you wanted to have your own room, it was, of course, the highest price. So I was only...
Don't forget about the price if you wanted your own private nurse on hand.
Oh, yeah. You could. Oh, my God. It was awesome. They sent me a list of all these other tests and things that they can do. Like, we talked about this on the last podcast. test, I believe.
I can't remember if we did or not, if you had gotten that form yet.
Okay. They sent me a huge list of things that you could do. Hey, while we got the hood up and we got the car on the jacks, why don't we look at some other things? So you could get anything you wanted there. Analysis of your blood and different kind of things that they would do while you're there. You could have a nurse by your side the whole entire time if you wanted. Basically, if you're willing to pay for it, you can get it. And of course, I was only there for 12 hours, really, in a bed for less than 12 hours. So
You were there for more than 24 hours in total, though.
yes, but I don't care. Just put me in a room with two other people. I don't care. Just fix my shoulder and let's get the hell out of here.
And then there was still, at that point, you could still have like a TV brought in. And I kept joking, is it like at high school, elementary school, where like they bring a big old TV on a cart?
Yeah, this place was like a steakhouse. Everything was a la carte. You could have whatever you wanted as long as you're willing to pay for it. So yeah, the TV was off, but if you wanted to have television, you had to pay
Pay for the remote.
Pay for the remote kind of thing, which was kind of funny to me. But they stuck me in a room with one other patient, and he was a really nice guy from Padova, and he was there getting, I was in the Rizzoli orthopedic hospital, he was getting a thing done on his knee. It was nice to have someone else to talk to, and but they come to me about an hour after they set me down on this bed, and I'm just reading a book trying to keep my mind off the impending unknown of what's going to happen. And they go, there's been a clerical error, so we're going to need more money from you because we don't have, I know you selected they call it the common room, like with two other people, but we don't have any common rooms left. So as you can see, you're in a room with only two semi-private rooms. So we're going to have to we're going to need more money. And I looked her right in the eye and said, I have no more money. I have zero more money. So we have two options here. One, I stay here and we do the operation. Or two, you send me my money back and I go home right now. And that, I looked her dead in the eye. And
but you said it so funny because very Italian. I don't have another lira.
Yeah. Whenever you say you don't have any more money, I find you say, no, I don't have another lira. I don't know why they don't use euro. Probably because euro just came around. But you say, I don't have another lira. And she could tell, like, oh, this guy's not going to give us any more money.
Well, because they sent you the...
they sent me a preventivo or
the bill, the official bill.
And you have to pay for everything before you get there. So I sent my money, and they got it, and everything was good. They're not going to let your ass hit that bed until you've paid, right? So I'm good to go. You can't come to me an hour later and say, oh, by the way, it's going to be more money. So I'm like, listen, figure out what you're going to do because I'm still all in my clothes and you've only done one blood test so far. So let me know if I'm going home or we're going into an operating room. And I think she could tell that I wasn't screwing around. Like, you're not getting more money out of me. So she goes, okay, one moment. It's the nurse and the secretary of administration person. And they go off like a few meters away and huddle together, rubble. And they're like, okay, va bene. It's like, yeah, no shit, okay, va bene. This isn't my problem. This is your problem. If the hospital beds were full, you should have told me, okay, we can't do it this week because what you selected is unavailable, and you have to wait till whatever, the 5th of July, and then we can do it. All right, fine. Either then I can make the decision, do I want to spend 400 euros more, or do I want to wait a week? Then I can make that decision. But you can't come to me after I've got the tag on my wrist.
I'm in the bed.
I'm in the bed. Like, I'm sitting here in the bed. You've already stuck me with a needle, and now we're going to start talking about more money?
Jason, so the text goes from, I got a complimentary upgrade to, they're shaking me down. The shakedown has begun is actually what you said.
Yes, the shakedown has begun. So that was an interesting little quirk that happened. And then another thing that I realized is that the doctors, the anesthesiologists, the surgeons, those people don't, the real work, and I know for those of you listening who've been into a hospital and have medical procedures done, you're like, yeah, no shit. But for me, this is my first time. I've never really had any interaction in a real hospital. The real work is done by the nurses and the junior doctors. Mm-hmm. So we
got a lot of nurses that listen and doctors as well, but I'm sure those nurses out there are like, no shit.
So hats off to you people who actually do the work and talk to the patients, because I never saw the anesthesiologist until I get into the OR and he's like, hi, I'm the anesthesiologist. But I met his number 2, which was a 35-year-old woman who's really, really nice. And she's the one who goes over the questionnaire and tells you exactly what's going to happen and asks if you've ever been put under anesthesia and does a few tests and blah, blah, blah. I didn't see the surgeon, my guy who looked like the surgeon out of one of the telenovelas or one of your stories. I didn't see him until I'm in the OR, but I did see his number 2. Again, a 30-something-year-old guy who comes in and explains everything we're going to do and goes over everything and has me sign the final paperwork and all that kind of stuff. And then, of course, the nurses who... These are the people who actually really do the work. I guess once you get to a certain point in your medical career, you just kind of show up and do your little thing, and then you peace out. Mm-hmm. But the people,
it's like the headliner.
Yeah, it's like the headliner, exactly. And the people who do the nitty gritty and are poking you and doing all that, doing the real work, and the ones you actually have. Like I had no communication with the surgeon or the. Even when they came in and did the rounds the next day, because it's a university hospital, he didn't really make eye contact. I mean, all in all, he's kind of a dick, this guy. He might be the best at his job, but he's kind of a dick, I gotta say. He came in and really didn't make eye contact with me, but there's, 20 people in this room, and he's like, this is my patient, Jason Bartner. We repaired his sovra spinosa, blah, 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 blah. And you can tell the head orthopedic lady who looked like a very elegant older lady, like she just looked like a doctor or a lawyer or something. Then you have we'll call him the associate. Like my guy's an associate surgeon. He's not the top. He's not the
partner head.
For lack of a better term, he's not the head surgeon of the hospital. And then you see the junior ones, and then you see the medical students, because those guys look like college kids. Like they're wearing jeans. Their white coats don't have any writing on them.
It's like Scrubs.
Yeah, it's like a little bit like Scrubs. So when they came in, he barely made eye contact with me, and it's like, dude, screw this guy. He might be good at his job, but they left out how to deal with people in medical school for this guy.
How many times did they ask you? Oh, well, before Jason went in, he was very concerned they were going to operate on the wrong shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
And he also, at the same time, which I don't know if that's just an American thing or what. So he also was very concerned because, well, in the same sense about this, which shoulder is it? Because he asked for some write-up, or the write-up from the MRI came back, and they sent the wrong person's information and results to us.
Yeah, which is kind of
like wrong right shoulder, not the left shoulder.
We're looking at this thing, and I'm reading it, and even though it's in a doctor speak and in Italian, I'm reading it. I didn't really look at it when they sent it. They sent it digitally, and I was looking at it, and I was like, this doesn't sound that bad. It's like a partial tear of one of the ligaments and blah, blah. I'm reading it, and I'm like, well, this doesn't sound bad at all. Why am I getting surgery? And then I start looking at it. It's like, oh my God, this is not me.
This says left shoulder or right shoulder, and it's some other person's name.
Other person's name. So
then Jason was starting to get a little bit concerned, because then the day before the surgery, also the surgeon and a nurse, I think, called to find out.
They called to confirm that it was my. He goes, "What shoulder is it?" I get a call from the surgeon's number 2 guy. What shoulder are we working on tomorrow? It's like, we're working on the left one, dude. And why are you asking me this on the phone? What's going on?
So we talked to Luke, the neighbor, who is a doctor also, and he said this is very common.
They're going to ask you a bunch of times, and I counted from the time I entered the hospital to the last question they asked me before they put me under anesthesia was, which shoulder are we working on? It was 12 times they asked me what shoulder we're working on. So if Luke didn't let me know that, I would think these people have no idea what the hell
they're doing. You would have been freaking out.
I would have been very concerned. But the morning before we walked over to the hospital, Ashley put she brought 2 Sharpie pens, 2 permanent markers, and put no in giant letters, and drew a stop sign on my right shoulder, which was a icebreaker for every single medical professional I saw. They're like, do you have a tattoo? What is that? I was like, oh, the Moilier, the wife.
It was so funny because like the day or two leading up to the surgery too, he kept going, I need some good jokes, some icebreakers.
Icebreakers.
Like, I want to lighten the mood a little bit. You got any good jokes? And then I was thinking, he told me he wanted the no on his shoulder, but I kept thinking, I'm going to do this stop sign. And
It was a good stop sign.
It was. And I didn't realize, though, that the stop sign was going to steal the show. And
Stop sign
got some good jokes. You said it became like the talk of the floor. Everyone came in to see the stop sign.
Yeah, everyone who came in to work on me was like, "We want to see the stop sign." It's like, there it is, right there. So that was good.
Oh, and then you did get, I wouldn't call it shaken down, but they did bring a credit card machine to the side of your bed for...
Oh, yeah, you didn't really think I was getting out of that hospital without paying more money, but part of what I paid was the anesthesia, the surgery, and the night in the hospital. It didn't cover anything else. So about 2 hours before my surgery, the physical therapist of the hospital comes in and says, we have to fit you for your brace thing. And I was like, okay. And he's like, it's 150 euros. It's like, okay, I didn't know. And he whips out a portable credit card machine. It's like, oh, right now 150 euros. Okay. And he fits me with this hardcore, like, it's pretty hardcore, this thing. I didn't know I was good. I wish they told me beforehand. Listen, why
wasn't it just in the estimate or in the write-up?
Because it's not it's after the fact. Like, you don't need it. So that goes into the operating room with you because they put it on you after I woke up with this thing on. It was at my feet when I went in, and I wake up with it on. So that was kind of funny. He was a nice guy as well, and they fit you all up with it and make sure it fits okay. And then the next morning when I wake up and the
surgeon,
the assistant to the main surgeon comes in and checks everything out. He readjusts everything. It's like, whoa. The physical therapy guy made sure it fit okay, and now you're pulling on straps and redoing things, and now you just made it so it does not feel comfortable at all.
But come to find out, it wasn't meant to be comfortable.
No, yeah. So I asked, this thing isn't comfortable, and it's not meant for your pleasure. It's not meant to be comfortable. It's meant to keep your arm in a certain position to heal. So, all right, I get it. I get.
Share with them also my favorite part of your interaction with the nurses post-surgery.
Oh, yeah, I was that guy. So for some reason, I had it in my head that if I got more pain medicine after the surgery, they weren't going to let me go home the next day. So I'm just not comfortable. And
you wake up groggy. You have no idea.
Yeah, I have no idea. And I wake up at about 8 p.m. and I'm in a lot of pain. Just like not like acute pain, like someone poking you, just like this dull, like I can't get comfortable and blah, blah, blah. And the nurse comes in every hour and a half to check on you. How are you doing? Well, I'm in pain. Well, let me give you something for the pain. No, I don't want anything for the pain. No. And finally at about midnight, she comes in and I'm awake and she can tell I'm not very happy. And she goes, why? I go, why? She goes, well, let me give you pain medicine. It's okay. You can take. I go, I don't want any pain medicine because then I won't get, for some reason in my like drugged up haze, I thought that if I get more medicine here, they're not going to let me go home. And I just want out of this freaking place. And she looks me dead in the eye, and it's like 12:30, and I guess she had enough of my shit because she said, and this is a literal translation, she cursed at me. She goes, what the fuck does having pain medicine have to do with you going home? Don't you want to sleep? And I was like, whoa, what? And it was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll take some pain medicine. And she gave me an IV. She stuck a needle into my IV, and I went to sleep. Wake up at 5:30 in the morning, and she comes back in again and is like, you have to pee. If you don't pee, we can't let you go home. Like, she knew this was the way to – my thing was wanting to go home. She's like, you got to pee. You got to pee. If you don't pee, you're not going home. And she hands me this, like, container thing to pee in. And I'm like, well, I can't pee laying down like this. She's like, you can't get out of bed. I'm like, I can't pee laying down. If you want me to pee, let me just stand up. She's like, you can't stand up. You've been under anesthesia. And she's like, you could gira your testa. You could like get dizzy and fall over. I'm like, well, you're here and you operated on my shoulder, not on my legs. So if I stand up, I'll pee. And she's like, well, what if you get dizzy? I'm like, well, then just push me on the bed and I'll just be fine. So I stand up, I pee, everyone's happy.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! And then I go back to sleep for a little bit. That was that was earlier. There was no sun in the sky, so God knows. I wake up at my normal 5:30 in the morning, and now the orderly comes in to check on me. Do you want some water? Do you want a biscotti? Do you want anything? No. I'm like, no, I want to walk around. Let me just walk around. He's like, you can't walk around. You can't walk around. I'm like, why? He's like, you just had surgery. I go, I know. I had surgery on my shoulder. There's nothing wrong with my legs. He goes, I go, why? He goes, because you could fall down. I go, okay, I'll tell you what. You're here. If I can stand up on my feet for 30 seconds and I'm not wobbly, will you let me walk around? And he looks at me and goes, okay. So I stand there for 30 seconds while he does some things in the room. I'm fine. And now that gave me the permission to now just walk the halls, which pissed the night nurse off considerably, because every 8 minutes I'm walking by the nurse's station. It's not a big floor. I'm walking by the nurse's station just pacing the halls at 5:30 in the morning. She did not say goodbye to me when her shift ended at 7:30. So it was really interesting to see the hospital change over. Everyone gets there at 7:30 in the morning. The night people go home. It's at about 7:15. The next crew comes in. The night nurse goes home. She walked past me. She did not even look my way. She had had enough of my shit.
Well, you're
night.
The asshole.
I know.
They're just a pain in the ass guy. That's like, oh God. You were also the youngest by probably 20 years.
20 years at least. And then once the hospital kind of started getting going, you can't walk the halls anymore because now you're in the way of people. They're starting to get people prepped for morning surgeries. So I'm the guy sitting in the doorway just staring. I'm just staring at people. I'm literally my good shoulder leaning up against the doorway of my room, just staring. I wanted freaking out of there. And I saw all the surgeons get together for doing their rounds and blah, 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 blah. And breakfast came through. For some reason, they don't serve real coffee. They either have fake coffee with no caffeine or horrible tea.
Oh.
And I don't know why you couldn't have a coffee. I'm like, why can't you have real coffee? She's like, caffeine, it's a drug. And I'm like, oh, God. You pumped me through drugs all morning long. And by the way, I'm going to have like DTs here if you don't get me some coffee, because I could feel it coming. I'm an addict to caffeine. So that was about it. And then getting my discharge papers took forever. So I was very anxious to get the hell out of there. By 11 o'clock, I was a ghost. And that was it. Trip home
with a stop at our basically new favorite truck stop diner. We talked about it on
Ashley's favorite one.
We talked about it a few podcasts ago in January when we went up to London and we stopped and stayed in Imola. And with the COVID test coming back and forth on the same day and then coming home from the surgery, both times we stopped at Ca del Pozzo in Imola.
This truck stop diner, for lack of a better term.
Yes, and we discovered while we were there, because of course they have a huge poster of it, which we didn't notice the first time because we were unaware of the show. But one of our fun TV shows that we enjoy, the Camionista in Trattoria. Camionisti in Trattoria. The truck drivers in Trattoria, in diners, whatever, that he has stopped there. And
only Ashley can pound a giant plate of steaming hot pasta when it's 38 degrees outside and like the surface of the sun.
It was good. It was weird. They did a pasta with beets, and I had never had it looked like spaghetti, but like it looked like Play-Doh spaghetti, like a weird color that it shouldn't be. And I thought, oh God, but I'd seen a couple other people ordering it, and I thought, oh, maybe I made a huge mistake. It was excellent.
I got to admit, this place is a scene. It's $10. You eat, the food is decent. The tables are a little sticky. The clients are a little rough around the edges. The waitresses are short with you, but it's a scene.
Listen, it is what you want it to be.
It is what you want it to be. It is not fine dining, but it is. You'll come away with, wow, that was an interesting place to have lunch.
Oh my gosh. And you had like their sausage platter thing.
I didn't eat anything. You ate both of our plates.
Whatever. I was hungry. But I had to cut his meat for him, which was slightly embarrassing in front of all these truck drivers, I'm sure. But I enjoyed it thoroughly. It left this reviewer satisfied.
So we got home without an event. It's been hard. The first week was hard to sleep. Ice every 2 hours. I just walk around with an ice pack on my shoulder. And now it's I'm ready. I get the stitches out tomorrow, and then I'm have this stupid thing on until the end of the month. 4 weeks with this stupid thing on, and then I could start physical therapy and hopefully be back to normal in 2 months. 2 months. That is my.
We'll see.
They say 3 to 4 months of physical therapy. I'm going to do it.
Well, they said 4 to 6.
Well, for the whole thing.
Yeah. Oh, for the whole thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So a month with this thing on, and then 2 months of physical therapy puts me at 3 months. They said it takes 4 to 6. I'm going to do it in 3.
We'll see. He's gotten pretty clever and creative with ways to. We have a gas stove, and he has to like use his knee to push the igniter, or the pilot light. And he's gotten pretty creative with one arm, but
I can't do anything. It sucks. It's boring. All these projects. I haven't made bread in forever. All these projects that I thought I was going to do this summer, I haven't done anything. I've had to let it go. Like the grass, not like Ashley's been great, but I can't expect her to do all the garden stuff and cut all the grass and weed whack everything and do all the things that 2 people did and that I'm psycho about. Like we don't have guests here, so if the weeds get a little high on the driveway up to the house, so be it. Who's it? It's the only person who cares is me. So I've had to let some of those things go. If there's weeds in the garden in the footpaths between the tomato plants, so be it. It's not the end of the world. It's more important that
the tomatoes get tied.
That they get tied rather than the weeds get pulled. So I've let a lot of things go. Goddamn Gaji, we were in like the underneath garage yesterday. He's like, this place is a mess. Why don't you clean it up? It's like, dude, I got one hand, asshole. What do you want me to do? Like, you're the one who made it a mess. It was all put together before I had this surgery. And now he doesn't like to put things away. He'll just take something that he needs, whether it's like a tool or whatever, and then he'll just leave it on the table in there. So, of course, it's not a big space. So you do that 5 times, and now it just looks a mess.
Not only that, he does it in the garden. The other day when we were pulling up some potatoes, he goes, all right, leave the shovel here. And he just digs it, like just jams the shovel into the ground in the middle of the potato patch.
Which is hysterical because how many years you just leave your tools all strewn along the garden. It's like...
And I said, why don't we take it up to the...
barrel
bin where they all are at the beginning of the garden, which is exactly where we're all headed. Oh, we're not going to need that shovel for a while. Just leave it here. And it was like, no, let's put it back where it belongs. But he's always a character, that's for sure. That one.
He was happy this weekend. He got to cut a bunch of we split our garden into 2 and use one half each year and let the other half rest. So he was cutting the big, tall, like overgrown weeds and piled them up into a big pile and burned them. This man loves nothing more than setting shit on fire.
Totally. He was an arson in a past life.
He must have been.
God, he's got a passion for it. We saw him. We were coming home from grocery shopping, and he was in the garden the other day. And as we were coming home, we passed him on the road, and he stopped, and he goes, I was looking for something to light the bushes on fire. And we were like, thank God he didn't.
Nothing like lighting brush on fire in the middle of the summer with a nice little breeze to spread it.
It was so hot. It was like 34. It was exactly like 34 degrees in the evening. It was like, what is he doing? At least do it in the morning. It's a little cooler and have someone here in case it does get out of control. But when he was like, I was looking all over the house for a lighter or something to set this on fire. I was like, oh my God.
Sure you were.
You should not be trusted alone with that.
So that's basically our trip up to Bologna, and tomorrow, thank God, we don't have to go back there for the surgeon has a satellite office in Misano Adriatico, which is in between Pesaro and Rimini. Mm-hmm. So we'll be going there tomorrow.
So probably closer to like an hour, a little over an hour and a half drive,
which is better than 2.5 to Bologna. Plus, the only bad part is the one thing that is open is the corn maze that is in Senigallia. However, they're not open on Mondays and Tuesdays.
Of course not. So Jason was like, hey, we have to go up on Tuesday. Let's go to do the corn maze. We've always seen this, and we've suggested it to guests. It looks super cool. That would be really fun to walk through. It's just something to do. So I look it up yesterday, and it's like classic.
Yeah, of course.
Classic. That only 2 days that it's closed is one of the days we would be going up
Monday
there.
and Tuesday. So no corn maze for you.
No. Just makes you more terrible. What else? Well, anything else you wanted to add for the...
No, I think we've spent enough time. And if there is anyone listening that's bored out of their mind.
Well, let's jump into the listener Q&A. We've been doing the virtual Move to Italy workshops, and they've been a great success. And really, like we said, it's been a great chance for us to just...
talk to other people?
Talk to people. So... makes us sound pretty lonely and desperate out here, but
please talk to us.
Yeah. But it's been great since, like we said before, talking to people from all over the globe and the States and Europe and Australia. But we've gotten a few listener questions about the workshop and about kind of our move that I thought we could answer a couple. So the first one is...
Well, hold on. First, set up the pimp the...
the workshop? Yeah. So the workshop, we have two different courses you could take. One is the general overview, kind of ask all your questions. It's a 90-minute call. This is for, if you're not quite sure, just dabbling, is Italy right for you? How do I kind of get started? Maybe this is something I'm interested in a few years, or maybe you just have already started maybe you've already started the process and you've got some just super specific questions and you feel like I've already got citizenship through blood, or, you don't need to go through some of these other aspects. And so that one is a 90-minute call, and the other is, and that's 250 euros. And then we have, that also includes a couple worksheets and checklists and 90 days out before things to get done. And also, if you're planning to start a business, a few items to put on that timeline checklist. Then we have the full workshop, which is 4 calls, 7 hours, and we go over the preparation, transition, and execution or assimilation. So we've had a handful of people who are interested in both starting a business or just coming out to retire one day.
As it gets crazier and crazier with life where you live, maybe Italy, the craziness of Italy doesn't seem so crazy anymore.
Well, you say it's the good crazy. You like this kind of crazy.
I like this kind of crazy. It's my cup of tea.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of people tend to have questions mainly about the house hunting part, and very few have as many questions as they should about the visa process. But we go through it all, and we do the nitty-gritty. We tell it to you the way it is and how we experienced it, and always super honest. People will always go, can I ask you a question? It's like, yeah, that's why we do this privately.
Can we ask you a personal? You don't have to answer. It's like, no, that's what you paid for.
Yeah, we'll tell you anything you want to know. Our tax returns, everything. So a question that we got from a listener is, after all these years, we've been here now going almost on 14, are we still in the same property that we started at?
Yes.
And are we still renting it, or did we decide to buy it?
We will never buy it.
Why is that, Jay?
Because you'll never sell it.
What do you mean?
This isn't America. Now, okay, let me preface this by, if you're in a city center of Rome and you have a big apartment, yes, you can sell your beautiful apartment in a reasonable amount of time. But when you get into these big farmhouses down these dirt roads in the middle of nowhere in a less traveled touristy place, this house is huge.
It's very specific. Like, It's not like, this will just switch some things around and make it as a family house.
Our Dutch neighbors have been trying to sell their house that they restored for 5 years with nary a bite. Like, they'll get 2 bites a year. They'll never sell it.
And theirs is a bit smaller and laid out as a private home and still have a difficult time.
So if we buy this house, we better be in it for life. And we're not in it for life. There's going to be a time when I don't want, and it's past already, when I want to move on and do something else and do another challenge. And what do you do with this giant house? What do you do with it? If you can't sell it, it's not an investment. An investment means that you put in money for one day, getting it back out and doing something, and it's not that. So in our situation, when we first moved here, we didn't have the money to buy this house. Now, 14 years later, regardless of our financial situation, now I'm smart enough to know I would never want to buy this house or a house similar in size to it.
It's true. And there's times where Jason's very sentimental and like, should we buy it? Should we be here forever? But it's like, no, we just know it's especially for just two of us, if we decide to stop running an inn, it is way too big.
Well, this year's a perfect example. We live in 3 rooms. We live in the kitchen, our place, and the sala, or the living room of the downstairs. We have 5 apartments that we don't go into.
That are totally empty.
Haven't gone upstairs, haven't walked those stairs in a month and a half. We still have the curtain and the drapes closing off the main dining room from
Winter.
It's used for storage of all the kitchen crap that I don't need because we're not running a restaurant.
Well, it's ironic. You can have this big farmhouse, but in the winter you keep to a small amount of space because that's the only space you want to heat. Heating can be expensive. So you kind of limit your space to where you're going to have your heat source, in our case. Then in the summer, you don't need that much space because you're outside all the time. And why be, upstairs in a room when you can be outside doing something? So we've learned very quickly
to maintain 500 square meters, to pay the taxes on 500 square meters, to clean 500 square meters is just something that I don't want to have to do forever. And buying a house of this shape and size in a similar location will mean that it is yours forever.
Forever.
Remember, Italians pass it down to their kids and to their grandkids, and it's like, okay, it's your problem now.
We're lucky we have a great relationship with our landlord still to this day, Fusciani, and so
for us, for our situation, it's not worth. Even though we don't have it as an asset, it's not. And you might look at it as throwing money down. It's how you look at it. You can look at it from 2 different angles. That we're just throwing money away because we don't own it, or you can look at it from our point of view is that it's not being thrown away. We're not throwing the money away because thank God we don't own it,
and that we have no debt to it. So that's kind of freedom.
No, that's not saying we don't want to buy something. My dream is to take a big barn in the countryside and convert it into like a loft, one part for living with a big open space, and build a loft where with 2 bedrooms and a bathroom, and have a bathroom downstairs, and split the big barn in half, and the other half would be like so we put like a salami room and like a garage and a workshop kind of thing.
That's what I was gonna say, workshop.
That's my dream, which I wouldn't mind owning that forever, because I think that you can find someone, maybe not an Italian, but if you ever wanted to sell something like that, it's more interesting and it's smaller. It's just we have too many square meters here. Like literally, I've not. When was the last time you went to the top of the stairs?
2 weeks ago, to get that chair to see if you could sleep in a chair versus the couch.
Yeah. So there's 12 bathrooms. That's 12. There's 12 chances for water to leak. There's the maintenance is just insane. And if we don't run people through here for the rest of our lives, it's silly to have a house this big.
Question number 2. Once we started the Agriturismo, how did we get the word out and attract guests? Well, I'll answer that one. We didn't wait to start the Agriturismo to get the word out and start guests. As soon as we had the idea, still living in New York without even a property, I started a website. Put the cart before the horse. Start putting it out there. Let people know what you're doing. I told everyone and their brother. Yes, we were in New York, and I worked in hospitality, so I was around tons of people with some serious money at times. But I just thought, hey, the more people I tell, the more I'm holding myself accountable, and the more maybe they'll remember one day, hey, that nice girl, didn't she open a place in Italy? And so I wanted to also start getting web history, SEO, started a blog, tried, even before we had boots on the ground in Italy, to research as much about the area and share information to become kind of an expert, if you will, on at least the part of the region that we were going to be moving to before we even got here. So then we didn't have to wait years or, once we got here to start doing that. I totally believe in planting the seed. It's a slow burn. This isn't the flash in the pan kind of marketing. So it takes a lot longer. You won't see overnight results, but the followers and people who do show up have been basically emotionally invested for years once they actually arrive at the door.
Like you who listen to like you right now listening to this podcast.
So it wasn't. So that would be the short of that answer. Don't wait till you start your business.
That's
too late. And then the next question and the final one for this part of the more move to Italy part and business is, how long till we had a consistent flow of guests at the farmhouse?
Year 2.
Yeah, I would say between year 2 and 3. By year 3,
No, year 2 we had
by year 2 we had guests. By year 3, I think we had our flow down.
Well, no, we had our flow.
Exactly.
But there was, first year was spotty, like
Italians,
some last minute people. We didn't really know what the flow of guests would be because year 1,
it would be a little bit here, a little bit there.
Yeah, year 1 was more a last minute booking or one of our neighbors who have an agriturismo who would be full and say, hey, do you have space? We didn't know that there was a Motoraduno in the autumn that a bunch of people motorcycle rally motorcycle event that all these people from all over Europe come from. So we didn't have the local knowledge of the flow of the season. Year 2, it was more, we got bookings in the off season, so we had more of an idea of what was coming through. Now we know to market to certain things, so we can get bookings ahead of time. You know, we're not waiting on last minute things.
And that seed I had planted basically 2.5, 3 years before.
Year 3 was rocking. Year 3 is when I threw myself on the floor and said, cut my arm off.
You said year 3, he threw himself on the kitchen floor before dinner. And a full house of guests, like 18, 22 people outside hungry, feed me kind of thing. And Jason, it is hot in the evening, and he goes, tell him I cut my arm off and the dinner will be tomorrow, but not tonight. And he had like a full-on temper tantrum on the kitchen floor.
Adult temper tantrum. So that means year 3 we were rocking and rolling. So year 1 was spotty. Year 2 we had a flow of guests, but it wasn't crazy. And year 3 we were
rocking and rolling
full. Yeah, and that's probably, I would say, as good as you can pretty much hope for.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect it to be much better, to be honest.
Yeah, if you're sitting here thinking that you're going to open up a touristic activity and you're going to be full year 1, you're out of your mind. Unless you have a base of clients that
Not only that, we had both a long-term history of working in hospitality.
Oh, yeah.
You were a chef.
Yeah, we knew what the hell we were doing.
For almost 8 years, you were an executive chef. You'd worked up to that point. I had worked in private clubs and hospitality for 10 years as well. We could handle the stress of having guests early on.
We knew what we were doing.
We knew what we were doing. If you have a booming first season, good luck. Congratulations and good luck, because it's going to take you time to figure out how to get your timing down for dinners, how to clean the rooms the right way, how to set your schedule so you have enough time to clean the rooms. All of these things
or just how to run a hospitality business. We get a lot of people in these workshops who are like, I'm an IT person and I want to run a bed and breakfast. It's like, first of all, why? You don't know.
There's so many other things you can do.
Italy needs more people in technology, and if you want to have a room to rent or let or whatever, that's fine. But you're spending your whole entire life savings and your future on something you have no idea about. Listen, I would like to be an engineer. I think that sounds really cool. But do you want to go across the bridge that I designed and built?
Just because you like
bridges? Just because I like bridges? I don't know.
Another question was about old stone farmhouses and heating and the nest system.
Yeah, anything is possible, right? But remember, when you can't put a square peg in a round hole. So you love this idea of an old stone farmhouse. Well,
and that you're only going to come out a few times a year.
But you want the technology of today. It's all possible, right? Anything's possible with enough time and money. However, how are you going to get floor heating without ripping up the floors? How are you going to put in these sensors and systems and run all these wires when this isn't a drywall wooden framed house? This is a stone stucco house. There's nowhere to when you drill into the wall, you just drill into stone. So how do you run the wires to do this? Now, if you're taking a ruin and going from the bottom up, shoot, you can do whatever you want. You can marry the old and the new, which is really, really interesting. That's what I would love to do, is have the like having a resto mod car. You have a 55 Chevy on the outside, but on the inside you have disc brakes and a real motor and you know, all the things that make a comfort car, instead of having
and safety
and a real suspension, instead of using all these technologies from the 50s that, yeah, this car is old, but it is also going to kill you. So think of it that way, as that unless you're going to tear the whole house down, how are you going to put these modern systems in without tearing up the walls and tearing up the floors?
Or having, even in our place, because of the stone walls, lights are only where there were lights when we came in, or if there's the conduit holes that there's a few places where they didn't put a light, or maybe left it so you can pull another spot, but you're either putting that light fixture then exactly over that one hole, or
you have exposed wires.
You've got exposed wires running all over the
which the Italians have worked out. They have really pretty cloth wrapped braided wires, but you're going to have exposed wires. And how many exposed wires do you want to have all around your house before it's like,
exactly,
okay, yeah, I have this Nest thing or whatever, this digital climate control, but there's wires everywhere in the house. And now we're covering with these ugly plastic, like they have these plastic like wire cover things that you could put on, but you just kind of have to think ahead that you can't have your cake and eat it too sometimes, unless you're starting from scratch. It's just, you're going to have to, if you want to be here, if you want to show up part-time, and you think wouldn't it be great to come here in December and have Christmas in our stone house in Italy? Yes, it would be great. But the first 3 days you're going to freeze.
You're definitely going to freeze.
Because these houses don't heat up. You don't just turn the thermostat to 25 degrees and it heats up in 4 hours. It's going to take 3 days. You're going to have mold there's mold that you're going to see on some of the walls, especially where you have air passing through doors or moisture getting in a little bit. It's part of the thing. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Mm-hmm. Which is a hard thing for some people to wrap their heads around. They live in this fantasy world that I want a 300-year-old house, but I want to have all the comforts that I have in wherever, and I want to be able to control everything on my smartphone. Well, great. Find a ruin and build, and if you build it, you can have it. But
not only that, wouldn't that you have to make sure that the house has like constant internet? How does that work?
Yeah. But they're also, well,
I'm thinking
we live in the boons.
That's true. That's true.
A lot of other places do have internet all the time. But what happens if there's a power surge and your router and you need someone to reset the router? Who's coming into the house to?
That's a great point.
That?
My dad has well, now they live there, but they have an inn in southern part of Washington State, and they were living just south of Seattle, a few hours away, and there was a power surge, and he realized even just going these 2 hours or so to get there becomes a big deal, let alone being an ocean away. And you either need to have someone local who you trust to come in. It just becomes a whole to-do. More than you got to think. You got to plan it out.
Anything's possible, but you just have to plan it out, and you have to plan for the contingencies when things go sideways. Mm-hmm. You want to rent it out as Airbnb? Great. You're going to do the keyless entry thing? Great. How are you going to make sure that what happens when there's a problem and you can't get the code for the door reprogrammed? Mm-hmm. Who's going to work that out for you? Mm-hmm. Is there going to be an Italian in this little town or this out of the way that's going to come and know how to work on that system? Are they going to do it in the timely fashion that you need it done? These are all questions you have to think about because your urgency is not theirs. And especially if you're not part of the community.
That's what I was just going to say. Because then you have someone like the buddy of ours, Renato, shout out. We know you're listening, I'm sure. But he ended up with a family house purchasing his grandparents' house in a small town, and he was part of the community. They remember him from growing up.
They remember him as a baby, so he can call these people who is a friendship with, who he's known since he's been 12 years old, and he can count on them. If you're just a foreigner coming in, just because you pay these people doesn't mean that they're going to be there for you when you need it. They will be there if you have a personal relationship, mm-hmm. not if you have a financial relationship. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why Renato doesn't have a problem, because mm-hmm. he knows the whole town.
The neighbors take pictures of the house for him when he's not there and check in on things, or could set up the heat before they got there the first winter. They still froze, but
you want to have a pool. That's great. Who's going to clean this pool? Once the pool goes green, it's hard to get it to come back. Are they going to keep it clean the way that is the company you hired going to keep it clean the way you wanted to keep it clean? We've met people who had a place not too far from us. They're an English couple, and they tried to do this. They have a pool, and they couldn't count on. They blew through like 5 different pool companies.
Remember, and the pool company,
Took their-
quote unquote, like borrowed their pool cleaner, and and then was like, oh no, we were getting it serviced for you or something. It was like, no, this thing was brand new. You're using it at every other house you're going to.
So anything's possible, but you just have to work out. You have to think 2 steps ahead. And especially you have to think about what happens when things don't go right. It's easy when it's easy when things work, but what happens when they don't? Who's going to have your back? Who's going to help you through these situations? Can you count on them? Because you are 3,000, 5,000, 6,000 miles away, and they don't really know you. And if it's just different here. If it's a Sunday and they're with their family somewhere, they're not going to drop what they're doing to come reset your internet router. Like, it's just, unless you have more of a relationship than paying them some money every month.
Well, keep the questions coming. We'll answer a few here and there throughout the podcast as well. The next one that we have is more of a fun, personal one. We got this. I ended up with a couple emails about that we mentioned that I mentioned our playlist on the last podcast of going to a restaurant and that they had great music. And that I was like, oh, it reminded me of my playlist, and just kind of threw it out there. And a bunch of people were requesting if it was on Spotify to send them the link or who we would recommend. And no, I was a child of the 80s of mixtapes. I have a iTunes playlist that I just have created myself, so it's unfortunately not on Spotify and unable to be shared. But I thought I'd give you a few of the musicians that are on my list for you to be able to check out and look up and add to your dinner mix or cooking mix or whatever it may be. So this is one. These are I kept to more Italian music on this one versus I'm a huge fan of oldies. If you've been here for the cooking classes, you know there's a great mix of blues to Italian to classic rock, a whole little bit of everything. But this one I thought I'll keep it more foreign since it'll be something different for you to look up. So a great one is Adriano Calentano, and I'll write these down on the blog as well. This is just fun dinner cooking music. Fred Buscaglione, Giampiero Matriani Trio. This is who does the intro music to our podcast. Gigi D'Alesso, Louis Prima, he's classic, of course. Mossi and Fatone. Mina, she is a super famous Italian artist. Natalino Otto. Ornella Vanoni, and this is one of my absolute favorites. She sings L'Appuntamento, which is just a heartbreakingly beautiful song. Quartetto Cetra, and this is Crappa Palata. Crappa Palata, da pa pa, beep 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 beep, ooh ooh ooh, and they have great fun music. That one I just love and play over and over. Ronald Naldi, Tito Schipa, and then 2 French ones that I just love are Charles Tourneur and Zaz. Zaz is kind of a little busker music with a lot of horn, trumpet, and I love it. It's really fun. I really don't know much of what she's actually saying, but I find it to be just really fun, jazzy, and a kind of great throwback. So I know it's hard to write down or spell out as I'm saying these different names right now, but like I said, I'll put it on the blog, and that way you can go and copy and paste and look up a bunch of them for yourselves. So this is kind of more 40s, 50s Italian music, and a guest, or actually not a guest, but someone we were consulting with had requested the list, and he sent me a few of his faves too. So if you've got any good ones that you think that I should add to my list, email it over to me or include it in the blog post comments. I'd love to hear from you guys. I'm always expanding our blog or our music list. Oh, one that's in English that's kind of fun and a little kooky and weird, but some of Andrew Bird is kind of cool. I'm trying to think of a few others right now, but those are the main ones I'd say go check out and research for something different for when you're cooking dinner or having a little drink on the patio this summer. Well, it's going on 8:50. It's time to wrap it up, and I'm going to bring it home. Jason had to run outside and turn on the water for the garden. And, are you back before we can say goodbye? He just came back up. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I had to change the valves on the drip system.
That's what I thought. Well, thank you guys for hanging in for this longer edition of the podcast.
Yeah, an hour 18. Not bad.
All right. Who knows when, like as usual, when we'll be firing up the mics again, but without the guests. Send us the questions, and it makes us definitely do the podcasts sooner. Because otherwise we think, I don't know, is this just boring stuff? Does anyone care?
Not really.
I know.
For the dozens listening out there.
I know. We love you guys. Thanks for listening. You know where to find us. LaTavolaMarche.com. Start planning your 2021 holiday. LaTavolaMarche.com. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all at La Tavola Marche, or follow me on Instagram at Ashley Bartner. Have a great day. Ciao, ciao.
Sentire Media.
Hey, podcast producers and show hosts. Do you want to join a podcast network that celebrates all things Italian? At Sentire Media, we understand the allure of Italy and its unique culture. Our devoted team of hosts and producers are all driven by their shared passion for Italy. And we work tirelessly to create the best lifestyle podcasts and content that will whisk you away to the very heart of Italy. With us, you can savor the mouth-watering flavors, get lost in the stories from the past, break down the cultural barriers, and truly immerse yourself in the vibrant traditions of this intoxicating country. If you have a great podcast idea or are already in production and would like to join Sentire Media, head over to sentiremedia.com. That's SENTIRE media.com and find out how to submit your show.